Hello, welcome to the tutorial on how to create PDF reports in Radzen server-side Blazor and Benjamin Ferdinand. First of all, as is customary, I'm going to ensure that my SQL Server service is running. So I'll be searching services. Okay, instance I want to use is running. So I haven't confirmed that my SQL Server service is running. The next thing I want to do is to start Management Studio. I'm using Management Studio 2016 because I'm currently upgrading Management Studio 2019. That is why I'm using Management Studio 2016 in this tutorial. So I'll be connecting to the instance named Ukolua. My computer, I'm going to use SQL Server authentication. I'm going to click remember password. Then I'll click connect. So now I've connected. So I'm going to create a new database. So I'll right click on databases and I'll say new database. So I've decided to call the database Jargon Hotel DB. I've made the owner to be SA. So I click OK. Now I come to Jargon Hotel DB. I'll expand it. I'll right click on tables. I'll go to new table. Says this backend version is not supported to design database diagram or tables. Okay. All right. If that's the case, I'll right click on this and say new query. I'll say create table. Departments. Create table departments. Department ID int identity primary key department name. And VACA 50. say go. At the top, I'll say use Jorgen Hotel DB. Say go. And after that, I'll say create table employees. Employee ID, big int, identity, primary key. First name, n varchar 50, not null. For the department, we are also not going to allow null, so put not null. Middle name, n varchar 50, we are going to allow null. Last name, n varchar 50. Not null. Date of birth, date of birth, n varchar 50. Sorry, date time. Date time, not null. Gender ID, int, not null. Department ID, int, not null. Go. Create table, gender, gender ID, int, identity, primary key, gender name, n varchar 50, not null. Go. Let's pass the statement. So I click pass, it says command completed successfully. So I click execute. And when I expand the folder here, I see the 3 tables. So now, Management Studio has finished updating. That's the highest version of Management Studio has finished updating. So I'm going to click on it to start it. It's coming up. Of course, I'm connecting to the Ipukoloa instance. Go to my databases folder and I'll open the Jargon Hotel DB. Here is what I have. Okay, there is still one more thing I would like to do. And okay, that's to go to design. And create relationships. So I click here. So in order to create relationships, I'm going to right click on the employees tables. On the employee table, I'll go to design and I'll now right click on relationships. So what I did was I right clicked here, I selected relationships, then I'll click add. I go to tables and column spec. I'm going to select department ID, and under employees I select department ID. Then I click add. Then I go to tables and column spec, pick gender ID. Under gender, then under employees I pick gender ID. I click OK. Then I click close. Then the next thing I'll do is I'll go to file and say save up. The following tables will be saved to your database. Do you want to continue? Yes. Now the next piece of business is I want to populate the database. Now I'll begin to populate the database by opening the gender table. I'll say edit top 200 rows. So when I put male, I put female in gender. Now the next thing I want to do is I quickly want to populate employees and departments table with experimental data. And to do that, I'm going to start an app. I'm going to start an app called DB Forge Studio for SQL Server. So here we have DB Forge Studio coming up. So I'll click on the data pump. I'll click on data pump. Then I'll go to new data generation. And then for the connection, I'll click on new. The server will be /Ipukoloa. Authentication, I'll leave it as SQL Server authentication. Type in my username and password. Then I will choose a database. And of course, the database I'm going to choose will be Jargon Hotel DB. Then I'll click OK. I'll test connection. Click OK. Click OK. After that, I'll click on next. Row distribution mode. By a specified number, I want to populate 1,000 rows. I want to truncate data from table before generation. Random by seed, I'll leave it as random by seed. include null values, column properties. Okay, set values to be unique. Include null values. I don't want null values. Include in country specific data. So I can decide to populate with data from United Kingdom, United States, Germany, whatever. So I pick United States. And after that, I'll click on open. Now, after that, I'm going to select tables, departments, and tables, employees. These are the ones I want to load with data. So I'll click on department name. Looking at when I look at the preview, it shows me the list of departments. So it says not enough rows to generate. First 12 rows, okay. I can see it's telling me not enough rows to generate. So let's see. For departments, how about me telling it to generate 50 rows for departments? Does it have 50 rows? So I guess it has 50, at least 50 departments. Okay. Now you can see there is no red flag by departments. That means we are good with it. Now let me go to employees. Let's look at first name. First name by any gender. The generator right now is first name by any gender. No, I'll change the generator to first name male. Yeah, first name any gender is good. Middle name, the generator. Okay, let's leave the generator as middle name. How about the last name? Okay, let's leave it the way it is. Date of birth. The generator is birth date. Fill with dates of birth for different age groups and so on. The gender ID. For gender ID, the generator is table of view. And the table that we are going to pick our data from for gender ID column is gender. For department ID, let's see what happens when we say you should pick from a table of view. And that table of view is department. Or let me see what happens when I say foreign key. Auto assigned. Okay, so I have preview of data to be generated. First 2 rows of 1,000 for employees. So now I'm ready for the generation to take place. So I'll just click on populate data to the target database. Then I click on next. I click on next. I click on next. Then I click on generate. So here I see data population and Jogen DB Bukunlo are done. I'll close this. I don't want to save any changes. Now going back to my Management Studio, where I click on departments and I say select top 1000 rows. So I've got some cool data. Now if I right click on employees and I say select top 1000 rows. Oh, I've got two data. Okay, let's go ahead with what we have. Now, the next thing I want to do is I will start Radzen. So I type Radzen. So I click on new. Click on server-side Blazor. I'm creating a .NET Core 3.1 app. My theme, I leave it as default. The name of the app is Jogen Hotel. The directory is C/Jogen Hotel. Then I click on create. So now I have my app created. So I go on by clicking on new data source link. So I click on new. The data source is condata. Server is /Bukunlo. Database is Jogen TLDB. Authentication is SQL Server authentication. User is SA. Password is password. Then I'll click on Infer Schema. So I'll say generate pages for CRUD operations. Because I live in Nigeria, this is our date format. I will enable export to Excel and CSV. I will enable search as I type. Let me select all the entities and to generate CRUD pages for tables and views, even though only what I have. I only have tables right now. So then I click on finish. So I go to my applications. I look for Jogen Hotel. Then I click run. So here is the app finally loaded in Google Chrome. So it's now time for us to begin creating the reports, the PDF report. So to do that, I'll close the browser. I'll go back to Radzen, stop the application. I'll go to my applications. I'll look for the app Jorgen Hotel. Then I'll click on Show Application Directory. Then I'll right click on Jorgen Hotel Solution. I'll say Open with Microsoft Visual Studio 2019. So you have the project now open in Visual Studio. I'm expanding the project in Solution Explorer. So the next thing is that I'm going to install a package called ASP.NET Core.Reporting. So I'll go to Tools. I'll go to NuGet Package Manager. I'll go to Package Manager Console. So I'll now say install package, install-package, ASP.NET Core.Reporting. Press enter. So the package has been installed. At this point, I'll save everything I have on my project. I'll go to Build, say Build Solution. Build started. Build succeeded. Now, at this point, I'm going to open Visual Studio. I'm going to open another version, another instance of Visual Studio. So I'll say Run as Administrator. Click on Yes. So after that, I'll click on Create a New Project. This time I'm going to select ASP.NET Core Web Application, then I'll click on Next. Now note that the name of my Radzen app is Joggen Hotel. I'm going to give my ASP.NET Core app the same name as my Radzen app, which is Joggen Hotel. But I'm going to put my ASP.NET Core Web application in another directory, which is different from the Radzen app directory. So then I'll say create. This time around, I'm going to create an web API. I'm going to create a web API. I'm not configuring for HTTPS. Then I'll click on create. So now I have the new web API created. Now before I go ahead, so this is the new web API created. This is the new web API created. I have controllers, app settings.json and whatever. Now before I create the controllers, I'm going to go back to SQL Server. And I'm going to create two stored procedures. Create procedure, all employees as, then I'll right click, I'll go to design query in editor. Six index was outside the bounds of the array. Okay. How do I do a workaround? So let me say select star from employees. So I will now highlight the query I've just typed. Then I'll say design query in editor. Then I'll right click again, add table, says index out of the bounds of array. What do? I still need gender ID and department ID. Okay, let me just say cross join departments. Let me just say cross join gender. Okay. Then I'm going to highlight all that line. I'll right click and go to design query in editor. So now I have the three tables. I'm going to join departments and employee table on department ID columns. I'm going to join employees and gender table on gender ID column. I don't want gender ID, I don't want department ID, but instead I want department name and gender name. I click OK. So this is the body of the stored procedure. Let me execute. I like it and execute. This is what I have. You see department names, facilities, gender name, male and female. So I execute to create the stored procedure. Then I create another stored procedure. I call it employee by ID. So I say at ID, which is big int, Then I highlight this query I've generated before. I'll go to design query in editor. And then I'll add a filter to employee ID, and that filter will be at ID. And I click OK. So the whole query becomes select employees.employee ID, employees.first name, blah, 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 where employees.employee ID is got to at ID. Then I click execute. Now, I'll go to Radzen. I'll open the Joggen Hotel app. I'll go to data. I'll go to Condata. I'll click on Infer Schema. This time I'll make sure to select stored procedures. Then I click on finish. I go to my applications. I look for Joggen Hotel. Now I click on run to build it. After I've allowed it to run and I see code generation done, I'll click on stop. I'll minimize Radzen. I'm now going to go back to the Web API project, Joggen Hotel. Now, I need a tool. The name of that tool is called EF Core Power Tools. EF Core Power Tools. So you can find it in marketplace.visualstudio.com. You download it and then you install it. So it's already installed on my machine, so I'm not going to bother to install it. So I come back to the Web API project. I'll right click on Joggen Hotel. I'll now go to EF Core Power Tools, then I'll say Reverse Engineer. Then I'll click on Add. Then the server name is /Ibukun. Log on to server using SQL Server authentication. Username is SA. Password is whatever it is. Save my password. Then I'll pick a database name, which is Joggen Hotel DB. I'll test the connection. Click OK. Then I'll click OK. And I'll click OK again. So that's loaded tables list. I'll say but. Okay, so tables list. So I'll click on OK. I'll change the context name to Joggen Hotel report DB context. The namespace is Joggen Hotel. The entity type path, I'll put the entity type path in a folder called reports model. Then I'm going to say pluralize or singularize object names. I'm going to say install the EF core provider package in the project. Then I click on OK. So it says generating code. So now finally you see EF core power tools model generated successfully. You click OK. At this point, I'm going to build the entire project. So I'll go to build solution. Now, I'm going to head over to my Radzen project in Visual Studio. I'll go to the app settings.json. I'll copy the connection string from the app settings.json. I'll copy it to the web API. I'll copy it to the app settings.json for the web API. And I'll click save. I'll go back to the Radzen app. I'll go to the startup.cs. I'll look for the line that says services.add db context, whatever. I'll copy it. Now, I will head back to the web API project. I'll open the startup.cs and then in configure services method, I'm going to paste what I've copied from Radzen. But this time, then I'm going to import the namespace for use SQL Server. Now, I'm going to change the type for the DB context. I'm going to change it to Joggen Hotel dot reports model dot Joggen Hotel report DB context. I'm still going to leave the connection string to use to initialize the context to be data connection. I'll save all. Then I'll do another build. Now, the next piece of business for me is to right click on controllers folder. Then I'll go to add controller. Then I'll click on API. Then I'll click on API controller with actions using entity framework. Then I'll click on add. The data context class will be Jogen Hotel Report DB context. The model class, let's use employee. Controller name employees controller. Then I click on add. So finally, we are here. We have the controller has been generated. Now I've got some business to take care of. The first piece of business I'm going to take care of is to copy the reports model. Say copy. Now I will head over to my Radzen project, and then I will paste it. So there I have my reports model. Now the next piece of business for me is to go back to the Web API project. Can I copy the employee control stuff? Let me see. Okay, so I right click on employee controllers, say copy. I go back to my Radzen project. I right click on controllers folder. I say paste. So there you have employees controller.cs in Radzen. Now the next piece of business I'm going to take care of is to go to the startup.cs of the Web API controller. I'm going to copy the DB context initialization in startup.cs. I will head over back to my Radzen project. I will open my startup.cs and paste the initialization for the report model DB context. After that, I will save everything. Now, I'm going to close the Web API project. We no longer need it. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the full path of my startup.cs in Radzen. So I'll say copy full path. Then I'll go back to Radzen. I'll go to settings. Then I'm going to code generation ignore list. I'll paste that part and make sure that what I have is server/startup.cs. Then, before I go ahead, I'm going to rename this employees controllers.cs. I'm going to rename it to employees report controller.cs. You are renaming a file. We also like to perform a rename in this project of all references to the code element employees controller. So I say yes. So everything here has now been changed to employees report controller. So I save. Now I only need two methods in this controller. I need the method that gets all employees, and I also need the method that gets employee by ID. I don't need the put method. So I'm going to delete every other method apart from the first two methods I've mentioned. So here we go. Okay. Backspace. I'm going to add my employee report controller. I'm going to add it to the code ignore files. So I'll go to copy full path. So I'll now go to Radzen and add the full path to the code ignore list. I'll now edit it for it to start from server. Then I click on save. Then I will run my app in Radzen to ensure that everything is fine. Code generation done, so stop. I'm now going to modify the constructor of my employee report controller. Sorry, excuse me. I'm going to add this. I'm going to import the namespace for high web host environment. It's a Microsoft .NET with posting. I'm going to modify my employees report controller to take two parameters. So the second parameter will be high web host environment space web host environment. So then we are in the constructor, we are going to add this line underscore web host environment equals web host environment. Then this comment will become API employees report. I'm going to change the return type of these two action result, public action result. Get employees. I'm going to clean everything that is here. And the first thing I'm going to do is to get database connection string. Get a database connection string from DB context. So how am I going to do that? So I'm going to write something like this. var my connection string equals, actually copy this from Stack Overflow, so this one will become underscore context dot database excuse me let me see. Okay. So underscore context dot database dot connection string. Now for this, okay, hold on. Okay, my context dot database dot get DB connection dot connection string. I'm going to have some. I'm going to have var. Sorry, I'm going to have SQL. I'm going to have Microsoft dot data dot SQL client dot SQL connection equal to new Microsoft.data.sql client connection taken as parameter connection string. Okay, taken as parameter my connection string. I want this namespace to be imported at the top. So I'm going to clean this. So I'll say using Microsoft.data.sql client. Now, having done that, I'm going to have a try. I'm going to have my catch. I'm going to have my finally block. var command is equal to new SQL command command dot command type is equal to command type. So then I import the system.data namespace command type dot stored procedure command dot command text equals I'll go to programmability. I have all employees. So all employees. Command dot command timeout. So let me say 100,000. Command dot connection equals connection. Connection. Okay. Connection dot open. Var dt is equal to new data table var dr is equal to command dot execute reader dt dot load gr dot close. Finally, connection dot close. Now, this definition for the data table, I'm going to bring it out of the catch block. I'm going to put it in the same scope as the connection statement. The next line will be this. And I have this as my next line. And this is going to be my next line. Later on in this tutorial, we shall be creating this report, L employees report, .RDLC. And I'm going to create a string dictionary called parameters. I'm going to call this parameter all employees report param. I'm going to call it param, and the value will be all employees report. And because of time, I've decided to paste the remaining 4 lines. Local reports go to new, call this one DS all employees. Then for the local report, I'm going to import the ASP.NET Core reporting. So after that, I'm good. Now, what I'm going to do, because of time, I'm going to copy everything I have in this method for get all employees. Copy it. I will head over to the get by ID method and change the comment to employees report. Public action result. So copy everything, clean everything here, I paste. Now I'm just going to do some modifications. Everything here is still the way it is before. The only thing here that will change is the name of the stored procedure I'm going to call here. So employee by ID. So come here, change the name of the stored procedure to employee by ID. Then I'm also going to say, okay, before I say anything, okay, I'm already taking in long ID, so I'm going to say command dot parameters dot add with value. ID with value at ID, and the value is ID. Everything is still the way it's supposed to be. This one will now be employee by ID report RDLC employee by ID report. Now this one will be TS employee by ID. So I'll save. So now I'm going to start Visual Studio 2015. So I'm going to go to File, I'll go to New, and I'll go to Project. I'm going to select Windows Form Application, and I'm going to call it Employee Reporting. Then I'll click on OK. So the project is created finally. I'll go to Solution Explorer. So in Solution Explorer, I'm going to create a folder called Reports. So I'll go to Add, say New Folder, say Reports. Then I'm going to right click on the solution. I'm going to add a new item. I'll go to data section. I'm going to add the data set. I'm going to call it employee report.xxd. Then I'll click on add. Then I'll right click on the empty space. I'll go to table adapter. I'll select new connection. Server name is /Ibukunoluwa. Using Windows, I'm using SQL Server Authentication. Save my password. Jogan Hotel DB test connection. Click OK. Click OK. Yes, include sensitive data and connection string. Next. Next. Use existing stored procedure. First, select the all employees procedure. Click next. Next. Now click finish. I'll save my work. I'll go back to my project, my Visual Studio project. The name of the first data source is DS all employees. So I'll copy it. I'll go back to this. I'll rename it to DS all employees. I'll click save. Then I'll right click again, add table adapter. I'll click next. Use existing stored procedures. Employee by ID is what I'll select this time around. Next, next, and finish. Once again, I'll go back to my Visual Studio 2019 project. I'll head over to the second method. This time around, my data source name is TS employee by ID. So I'll copy it. I paste. Then I click outside. I'll save. At this point, I will build the solution. After building the solution, I'll go to Solution Explorer. I'll right-click on the Reports folder. I'm going to say Add New Item. Then I'll go to Reporting section. I want to add a report. And the name of the report is all employees report .rdlc. Copy. Head back to Visual Studio 2015. So I'll click Add. I'll right click on data set, say add data set. Data sources will be employee report. Available data sets will be DS all employees. Then I'll make sure that I rename this to be DS all employees. Then I click OK. Now I'll right click on parameters. So I'll say add parameter. The name of this parameter will be param. This time around, I'm going to allow no values. It's going to be data, it will be text. So I'm going to drag the param here. Then after the param, let me bold the param. Let me centralize the param. Then I'll go to Insert, Table. Let me bring it to the edge. Employee ID, first name, let's say last name. And let's have a department. So increase it so, increase it so, increase it so. Let's bold. Then I save. So I'm done with this report. Let me just confirm. Param. Now we head over to the second method. Now controller. This time around, okay, we have employee by ID report. Okay. This time around, the name of my report, second report, will be employee by ID report.rdlc. So copy. I'll go back to Visual Studio 2015. I'll right click on report folder again. I'll say add new item. Make sure I'm a reporting section. I'm going to add a report. Name of the new report is employee by ID report.rdlc. I right click on data sets. and I'll say add data set. My data source is still employee report. This time around, I'm picking DS employee by ID, and I'll change the name of this data set from data set 1 to DS employee by ID. Then I'll click OK. I'm going to add parameter again. The name of the parameter will be param. I click OK. I'm going to drag my param to the surface of my report designer. I'm going to bold it. I'm going to centralize it. Then I will insert table. The ID, first name, last name, department. So I'll bold this. So I save. Now the next piece of business for me is to right click on the reports folder. Say copy. I'll now go back to Visual Studio 2019, which has my Radzen project open. I'll go to View Solution Explorer. I'll right click on my WW root. Okay, let me say open folder in File Explorer. So I head over to Employee Reporting. That will be in Visual Studio 2015. Open folder in File Explorer. So I'll copy the reports folder. I'll copy it. I'll come back to my WW root. I'll paste. After pasting, I'll go back to Visual Studio and ensure that my reports folder is there. Good. The next piece of business for me. So I'm going to look for a package called Microsoft.esp.net core.blazor .http client. Microsoft ASP.NET Core.Blazor.http client. So I'm going to copy this installation command. I'll go to Tools. I'll go to Nuget Package Manager console. Control V it. Then I'm going to install that package. I'm going to save everything I've got. I'm going to build the project again, or rather build the solution again. Build succeeded. So I'm going to go to Tools, NuGet Package Manager Console. I'm going to install another package. So I'm going to say install package, install-package, system.code.dom. So that has been done. Save all, build solution. And I'm also going to say install-package system.data.sql client. Save all, and I'll build. So, to succeeded. Before I get to test the controller, I'm going to enter this line. That says system.text.encoding.register provider, coding pages, encoding provider.instance. I'm going to import this namespace using system.text to take care of that squiggly line. Then I save. So now I'm going to run the project. So here is my Radzen app opened. So if I type /API/employee report. Sorry, there is. Hold on. Okay, let's change it to employees report. Employees report. Voila. So here we have the reports loaded. So let's say employee report API employees report / employee report /2. And so, folks, we have come to the end of the tutorial. Thank you for watching.